All right, welcome everybody to the HR Morning Show. We are live at Unleash 2025, and we are coming from the PeopleInsight booth by HireRoad. Super excited to be here, and I have an awesome guest, as always, because we always get the best guests. Sarah, welcome to the show. Why don't you give us a quick intro, who you are, what do you do, and who do you do it for?
Awesome. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. My name's Sara Hartmann. I'm VP of Digital over at Shaker. I oversee the digital department, anything having to do with search, paid media, AI, a lot of HR tech consulting. So anything that's kind of new and buzzing out there, it's falling underneath me.
All right, I could ask a super open-ended question,
yes.
like tell me about all the advances in AI, because we're hearing about it, but I would be super curious, for you guys who are watching this, probably a couple of weeks afterward, but Google's stock today is down because Apple's been talking about how they're going to implement AI in Safari with search. And obviously, Google has just been the king of search for so long.
Yes.
How do developments like this impact how job seekers are searching for jobs? Like, what are you seeing with your clients that you work with on that side?
That's a great question, and I think it's one of our things that we do is trying to educate our client to how is the job seeker searching. So where is your candidate? Where are they starting out? A lot of times clients will come to us and they're like, I need to do Facebook, I need to do LinkedIn, I need to do this one. And we try to kind of go back and ask, like, what are you trying to solve for? And then look at that candidate journey. I think the search is really interesting because Google owns most of the market share. Yeah. So most searches start on Google. However, we've seen Bing and Bing search come up over the last couple years. A lot of that has to do with ChatGPT, because all of a sudden that came out, and so then people are looking on Bing. Yeah. And then in addition to that, which is really fascinating, is some of the younger generations, when they're searching, they're looking on TikTok first. Yeah. So for me, because I'm a little bit older, I'm Googling. So everything I'm doing, I'm Googling, I am TikToking. So now TikToking is going to be a thing, right? So we can say that. So if that's where they're getting their information from, if that's where they're starting from, then how are you showing up? How is your brand showing up? How is your content showing up for that search? And it's going to be super interesting over the next couple months to kind of watch to see, because there's so many different shifts that are happening in the market. Yeah,
I love that. In terms of one of the conversations that's come up a lot is AI, but from the candidate side. So what are some of the kind of challenges that are emerging with how much AI accessibility candidates have with your clients? How do you kind of mitigate that with how you advertise and where you advertise?
So are you talking about more like how everybody has AI in their tools now?
Yeah, it's like you got ChatGPT to help out with resumes, you've got auto-apply tools, you've got AI that can assist on interviews. So like how are your clients kind of managing that? I think, and being honest, I think everybody's kind of fumbling their way through it. I don't think anybody has figured out what the true rules are, and if you do these 5 things, you automatically win. I think every HR tech platform has put AI into their platform. But then you have to kind of think, how is it affecting the user experience and where is it good? And I just came out of a great session that's talking about bias and implicit bias in all these tools. So we really are talking to our clients about what's the problem. And I know that's probably not the sexiest, coolest thing, but it's like, what are you trying to solve for? Where our space gets really complicated is because there's so many different tech tools that are out there, and everybody's head is spinning. Which one am I supposed to use? I don't know which one to go with. And then you need to go back to, like, what is your strategy? Because I think a lot of times clients will choose a tech to implement, but tech is not your strategy, right? Yeah. It's your tool. So we try to kind of come in and pull back a little bit and say, okay, again, what are we trying to solve? What, if I could like work magic, what would tomorrow look like if I fixed all your problems? And then try to come up with a strategic pathway and evaluate what they're using. Because a lot of times they end up buying multiple different tech tools, and now they have the problem with data and analytics, and nothing's talking to each other. And they can't report, and now they're in these contracts. You've obviously been you've been in space for a number of years, right?
Yes.
So what are some of like those universal problems that haven't changed even with how much, because I think about like job boards being introduced, LinkedIn.
Yep.
Now it's AI.
Job boards, aggregators, right? LinkedIn, social media. I think, unfortunately, we're still talking about the same problems that we were talking about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, we really, really are. Even with the advances of all the technology, and obviously with me being in charge of digital, I'm a huge advocate of tech and all the cool things. But at the end, every brand is unique. Every company is unique. Each of their problems are unique. The people who they're trying to attract, the people who are going to work really well in their company and stay. Most of our clients aren't coming to us and saying, you know what, we don't have enough candidates. They're getting zillions of candidates, right? They're all coming in and they're saying we don't have qualified candidates. So it's going back and doing some of the research of what does a qualified candidate look like by your definition at your company, and really looking and focusing at retention rates. Going back to workforce planning. And again, none of this stuff is like the cool, hot, trending topics. But when you look at the workforce planning and you have a lot of people who are getting retiring early, getting out of the job market, you have people who are not going down the same career pathing that they used to. You have some of the younger generations who are either choosing not to go to school, going to school, staying, tons of freelance work, not wanting to go on that traditional pathway. So as an employer, how do you adjust?
Yeah.
How do you, so that you can attract the right, because in the perfect scenario, you have an opening, I have the most perfect candidate, I hire them and they stay for 30 years, right?
Yeah.
And then you don't have to redo it, rather than advertising for those same eyeballs over and over again.
One thing that I've noticed just within the space, and I mean I've been recruiting for a decade, and one of the things I always used to notice with clients on the agency side is there's an obsession with the top of funnel metrics. We got to get as many people, in a top funnel. And now we're actually having that issue where there's too many people.
Yeah, I think it's shifted. Yeah,
so from like a marketing perspective, employer brand perspective, when you're looking at putting out content to attract those people, what's the type of content that you're seeing work, and like how do you kind of coach your clients to not attract everybody but attract the right person?
Well, I think they need to have their right EVP, their employer value proposition, done research correctly, so that they have the right message, the right creative to attract the right people, right? So they're not getting just this huge mass of people in left and right. That's part of the key, because it's again, getting the right message in front of the right person at the right time. I wouldn't know what to do with, I'm not in the market to look for a power tool, right? Like, probably wouldn't know what to do with a power tool. So marketing to me on that, I'm not going to click on it. So you need to know your audience and where you're going. But content, again, same thing. We haven't said content isn't important. We've been saying content's important for, content is king, queen, whatever they're saying for 20 plus years. But it's been lit on fire now with AI, because now you have all these large language models, whatever one you're using, that is ingesting data and content that's out there. And if you as an employer aren't pushing more and more content out about who and what you are, and being super transparent, you're not going to attract the right people.
And you're not going to control that narrative of what people are actually saying.
And it's funny because it's this same conversation that we had back with Facebook.
Yeah.
When Facebook came out, everybody panicked. All legal teams were like, oh my gosh, we can't go on Facebook. It's going to be a hot mess. We can't do it. And then it kind of flattened out. Same thing with the AI piece. You either are going to be part of the conversation and control some of the narrative and the talking and get your message out there, or you're just going to be talked about. So even like TikTok, I would say, is probably like the newer ones, right? That's out there. You have some clients who are on the fence with maybe we should do it, maybe we shouldn't.
What are some of the reasons that people say they shouldn't?
I think it's the same nervousness about what Facebook was back in the day. They're just unsure about that platform. Obviously, there's some different things going on right now where we don't know where that platform's going to be or where it's not. I know me personally, I've seen more and more of my clients continue to do really well on TikTok.
And is that running paid ads or is that actual organic content?
It's both, on both sides. But a lot of times it's go search for your brand on TikTok.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I will do. I'll pull it up and be like, well, you're already on there.
Yeah.
So if we want to build a strategy and build it around it, that's cool. But I think doing some basic things as a client, go to Google and type in jobs, whatever your hard to fill is, see what comes up.
Yeah.
See who your competitors are, see what's coming up. Try to go through your apply process and look, because those are some of the main fundamental things that, again, we've been talking about for 20 years. The apply process is long. What's the compelling reason? We play the logo game where you pull up 2 different sites, 2 different competitors, put your hand over the logo. Does everybody say the same thing?
Wow.
Hi, we're great to work for. We have great benefits. All the things. We have great work-life balance. Is there? So what's differentiating yourself in this space?
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense. I've also thought one of the changes I've seen, because I'm pretty active on TikTok, big creator on there, and one of the things that resonates with people, and you touched upon this earlier, was there is a big pushback away from like corporate environments. Almost it's kind of swung, in my opinion, like probably a little bit too negative around it now, to where we have so many influencers popping up who are kind of making fun of corporate culture.
Yep.
A lot of people who are just kind of overly negative around it. But if you're an employer, from the employer branding perspective, how do you kind of keep that authenticity and like still have it to where you have that corporate feel as well?
But I think that's the key, is the authenticity.
Yeah.
What is authentic to one client versus another client is going to be completely different. And so if I'm working for a company who has a corporate culture that maybe is in the office 5 days a week now, 8 to 5, doing that is what it is. So that's what you want to advertise, because the worst thing you can do is say that we're
false expectations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I come in and work for you and I'm there for 3 weeks and now you got to do it all over again, and then they leave.
How do you kind of display that? I don't want to say like the ugly side, but like the things, because it almost sounds like you don't want to create that expectation of like, hey, this is for everybody, but this is for the right people. So how do you kind of get to that?
But I think it's through your creative and it's through your messaging. But I mean, again, the worst thing you can do is be inauthentic. And I think people, and especially on social media, will call you out on that.
Yeah.
I think we've gone through ebbs and flows of corporate culture, work-life balance. I've had the luxury through my career where I can't even tell you a time where I've been in the office 5 days a week. So that was even like pre-COVID. So I was used to it. So that was my normal.
Yeah.
However, we personally were in the office 2 days a week. And I know my team, they love it, because they get that human interaction, and it's that perfect balance of like coming in and working in teams and groups and making connections. And even how fascinating tech gets, there's still nothing like sitting across from somebody and making eye contact.
It's huge.
And building those relationships.
And I think people have landed on the hybrid. Like every time I do a poll on LinkedIn, it's pretty split between fully remote and then hybrid. And then definitely the minority is like the 5 days in office. But I think it's just what it represents too. It's like, I feel like there's been a shift where flexibility, a lot of people experienced it. And so we've seen that shift where I think more people are, and Gen Z probably more relates to this, where they want to be able to work and can kind of control their work life.
Correct.
Versus
being controlled.
And just that feeling of like, hey, I'm not in control of my schedule, or I'm not able to run errands for important things. And
they want the flexibility, and I think there's some jobs and corporate cultures that can offer that.
Yeah.
And there's some that can't, right? Healthcare, if I'm a nurse, right, I can't really do that from home. If I'm a doc or an x-ray tech or something like that.
Construction's another one.
Yes. There's some that are always going to be like that, but I think it's developing that brand, figuring out who and what you are, what that culture is, so that you can attract the right group of people and have a strategy behind it as opposed to just layering on tech.
Yeah, I love it. So, kind of getting back to Unleash here, you just talked about like being in person, right? A different energy. What kind of advice do you have for people who are, maybe thinking about coming out to conferences? Like, what's your best approach to conferences like this and getting in person? Like, how do you kind of manage that?
I think it sounds cliche. Do your research before you come out.
Yeah.
Because you come out to these conferences, it's very overwhelming, right? Everybody has different booths and things going on and music. You may miss something, but have an objective of what you're going to. Are you looking for an agency? Are you looking for an ATS? Are you looking for a tool? Are you trying to solve a problem? What is that problem? And network with people beforehand. Then you come out. I know with our team at Shaker, we went ahead and put out things on LinkedIn prior to say, hey, we're going to be here, we're coming. And we had lots of people respond back to say, cool, can I meet with you? Can I see you? To start to have some of that traction before you come out.
I love it. And then last question here, because you just triggered it in my mind. With LinkedIn video is really picking up steam. So is that something you see more of your clients? I know we talked a lot about TikTok, but like LinkedIn video, is that something you're seeing a lot more interest in? Sold on it, not sold on it?
I would say, like, again, I fall back on like the strategy, right? Because over the last 3 years, everything's about video, right? Everybody ingests content, right? That's why YouTube is YouTube and TikTok is TikTok, and that's why all these have taken off, and Reels on Insta and everything else. Everybody has very short attention spans, right? We want to hurry up and get information and get out. So I think it will be beneficial, but it's just like, how is it going to be used in the holistic part of their strategy, rather than, again, just layering tech on top of tech for tech's sake. Yeah.
No, I love it. Well, Sarah, it's been great to have you here.
Thank you so much.
I know I'm really excited for the rest of Unleash. I know I'm excited to be in the PeopleInsight booth as well. Where can people get a hold of you online? What's the best place for people to connect?
Absolutely. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Sarah Hartmann at LinkedIn. You can also come look at us at www.shaker.com.
I know you're going to be going to any other events this year as well?
Yeah, I believe TA Tech coming up here in June, so Amazing. We'll be back out again. So please reach out, ask questions.
Awesome. Well, guys, look, we always bring the best guests. It's been a great session. And Sarah, thanks again for your time.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Alrighty. Take care.
Bye, guys.